So today I'm going to be reading in English the translation of the message brought to us by Mauricio Quintero on Pinchas, and he entitled it, Today's Actions Will Affect Our Future. Parashat Pinchas presents a variety of enriching themes. We see how, by his quick action, Pinchas was rewarded for his zeal towards the Eternal. We see how the daughters of Zelophehad obtained the right to the land after bringing their request to Moshe. We read how the second census of the people of Israel was done, how family is mentioned more than 90 times in this portion, and how Joshua was chosen to be the next leader as the successor to Moshe, and about the offerings in detail during the Moedim, which are God's appointed times. Although each one can be discussed at length, my focus today and what struck me was the importance of making the right decisions and their implications for our future. We see how Pinchas came to a decision in a moment of pressure and stress as he watched his people die when they were acting in such a depraved manner. Pinchas did not act on blind impulse as we may think. Rather, he made his decision based on what the Eternal had ordered Moshe to do, that is, to impale all those who had joined themselves to Baal Peor. This decision brought many future repercussions to his family, one of which was, Hineni noten lo et briti shalom, behold, I give you my covenant of peace. Notice that the letter Vav in the word shalom written in the Torah scrolls appears broken, giving us the idea that peace among men was broken. The Vav in Gematria equals number 6, which means man. And that it could only be restored according to the Midrash when there would be peace among the tribes of Reuben, Gad, Menashe, and the rest of Israel. This is taken from Tract Zivachim 101b. Pinchas performed an act of justice, but he's criticized because he did not act with mercy and caused the breaking of the shalom among the tribes. What his action did was to deflect the wrath of God. He wasn't looking to appease or to be well regarded. Pinchas, who was a Kohen, took the lives of 2 people, although it had been ordered that the judges of Israel carry it out and not the priests. Thus Pinchas diverted the attention of the Eternal so that he was not consumed on the spot. God, who is merciful, testified that he acted out of zeal for the Eternal and not out of desire for revenge or personal interest. In this sense, today there's such a fine line drawn between zeal for the Eternal and the impulses of anger and revenge that arise due to the wrong actions of others, which can lead us to act out of our own selfish motives. It's true that the covenant of the Borei Olam is eternal, and for this reason we will see later in 1 Chronicles 6, 4-8, that Tzadok is a descendant of Pinchas, as well as Ezra, in Ezra 1-5, and according to Ezekiel, this priestly line will officiate before the Creator in the last days. We'll see that in Ezekiel 40, 43, 44, and 48. Having made the right decision brought consequences for the future generations of Pinchas, with the Eternal giving him the ability to transmit and reproduce his spirit of zeal for the Eternal and not to deviate or contaminate himself in pursuit of other gods, as Ezekiel mentions. On the other hand, Joshua decided not to depart from the tent of meeting, where Moses was, where the divine presence resided, as we read in Exodus 33:11. This decision to want to live in the midst of the tabernacle caused him to have a different spirit. We read this when he, together with Caleb, brought the report to conquer the land, as described in Numbers 13, 21-25. It's then we see that the Eternal gave Joshua the leadership of Israel to conquer the promised land. We also read how the daughters of Zelophehad made a very risky decision to go against a previously issued ruling that implied that only men would inherit the land. They risked their lives with that request because it could have been understood as an act of rebellion. However, they did not conform to the status quo, but they decided to fight for their rights and presented their case before Moses. Here we observed how Moses wisely consulted the Eternal on the matter, who then gave Moses a favorable opinion. Thus the daughters inherited the land promised to their fathers when they had come out of Egypt. I think that they are the first women who were the voice of many others in the same situation, the voice of vulnerable women. They were an example for future generations to fight for justice, for the rights of women all around the world, since they were a seed for social justice and women's rights in a male-run society. Midian, on the other hand, decided to take the path of sinat chinam, gratuitous hatred. In fact, they had no real risk of Israel taking their land when they conquered Canaan, because they neither passed near their territory nor made any special requests to cross over or to occupy their land. They sought to destroy Israel out of this sinat chinam, this free hatred, possibly due to a root bitterness that began in Abraham's time, since Midian was the son of Abraham and Keturah, as we read in Genesis 25, 1-4. This decision to seek unwarranted warfare led to the destruction of his people, as we read in Numbers 31. Israel's decision to join the cult of Baal Peor and the acts committed by Zimri and Cosby resulted in the death of 24,000 people in Israel. The tribes most affected were Simeon, Gad, Ephraim, and Naphtali, according to the results of the census. Indulging in sexual immorality brings disastrous consequences to people's lives, their families, and to society in general. According to some scholars, human beings constantly make decisions. On an average, 35 decisions are made per day. However, we are only aware of 1% of them because many are made automatically. The problem of everyday life is that we don't realize the consequences of what we decide or don't decide until it's too late. How do you make your decisions? Are you like Pinchas, who acted as a lone wolf, albeit it was out of a sense of justice? His decision turned out to be a right one because of his good intentions. But wouldn't it have been better for him to be more like Moshe, who consulted the Eternal first? Sadly, people have used this act of Pinchas to justify their violent acts, to defend their beliefs. Do you listen to the voice of God or to your own voice when you make decisions? Unfortunately, the ability to decide in the various areas of our lives are often taken away from us, such as the freedom to decide to get vaccinated, the freedom to elect candidates for public office, to decide how to manage public spending, many things. But we still have the opportunity and the power to decide to grow in our personal lives, to overcome our past, to face our fears, to create opportunities, new opportunities, to help others, to build relationships, to serve our God, to pray, to study Torah, and to be a light to others. This Shabbat, let's ask ourselves, what decisions are we making today that will impact our future and the future generations who will come from our loins? May the Eternal help us to make the decisions, the best decisions, daily and according to the light of His Torah. Shabbat Shalom.